Well, try something new, man. Try something new.
All right. Try it.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Well, try something new, man. Try something. Where's my microphone? Oh, yeah, there we go. Oh, it's in my pocket. Try something new, man. How about you? Oh, yeah, there we go. Oh, it's in my pocket. Try something new, man. How about you? All right. Oh, it's in my pocket. Let me turn this down. Turn this down. So we actually live on YouTube and Facebook.
Oh, okay. YouTube. Yeah.
Facebook. I think we are live on which channel? Um, yeah, live on the God Instructs Men channel.
Say God instructs.
God Instructs Men. Yeah, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Keys to Life. We're gonna be broadcasting from YouTube and Facebook. I couldn't get Instagram up for some strange reason, but we just gonna roll with it, man. What's going on, man?
Man, just been running, man. Handling business.
Handling business.
That's what men do.
Handle business.
We handle business.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to comment on anything that we're doing today, we are actually taking uh, some comments, and you could talk about anything. Our main thing is just to give you some keys to life, and my thing is love. My thing is always love and relationships. So I could talk about that for a million years. So, um, yeah, what's going on today, man?
Like I said, man, I've just been out handling business. Just getting things in order in the event that I get called to leave town. Because that those calls come every now and then, uh, spur of the moment sometimes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I'm just handling business while I can. You know what I'm saying?
There you go. How's the wife and kids, man? You had a newborn, and she about what? 20 years old already?
That's just 3 months, man. She hit 3 months
She
on
telling y'all what to do already?
in her own way.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, she hit 3 months this past week, Monday. As a matter of fact, she hit 3 months old. Um, so everybody's doing well, man. What's going on in your head?
Man, let me tell you. I'm right now focusing on the podcast and all the technology stuff and trying to get us up running. But as far as life is great, man. And, working at Donatello's, both of us, and we're doing our other things.
Oh yeah.
And most people don't know why we calling it Keys to Life because both of us plays keys, and we sing and we do that every week. Um, I do it. I do a gig at the Flemings and Donatello's.
And I basically is do Donatello and private stuff. I don't want to be out there too much. Um, so yeah, the private things actually happen a lot of times from the platform that is established at Donatello, which is a blessing in itself. You know, and as a matter of fact, was approached last Friday. We're playing, and so people want us to play for their daughter's pre-wedding.
Uh-uh.
They want us to play that Friday, and the young lady's gonna get married on Saturday. So Um, I just look at it as a wonderful platform to be on display in a very, very classy environment. A Tampa staple on top of that, which that restaurant does good things for the community every year consistently for years.
Yeah,
And it's just a blessing to be in partnership with the owner that actually gets it. Yeah, that's what I'll say about that.
it definitely does. Can we mention names on here? You talking about Donatello's on
Yeah,
there?
I mean, Gino's great. You
Love
know,
Gino.
he's carrying on, the same tradition that his father, Guido, rest in peace, that he still carrying on that same thing, the same spirit, which is a wonderful thing. And I just feel blessed to partner with him, you know, um, in that vein. Because when I look back at it, been affiliated in there for gosh, a little over 15 years.
That's a long time, Scott.
Yeah.
Was that 3 then?
I think he was 60 then.
Yeah, Gino is a great guy, man. I love. I've never. This is sad to say, but I've never worked for a pastor. Well, I take it back. Clint Brown in Orlando was the best as it relates to leadership and just getting it.
Mhm.
Um, a man who sings and plays himself, so he makes the best leader that a musician could ever have
Mhm.
because he understands. And but Gino is similar to that. Gino gets it. He understands. I think Gino's a musician himself. Plays trumpet, doesn't he?
That's new to
I
me.
think he mentioned that to me. But
Okay.
usually when you are that, you understand those, operating in their element, in their giftings.
Mhm.
So you quite naturally see their needs, and what happens from there, you can do your job well because they get it and they supply what you need to in order for you to do your job properly and what best suits the need for the house. So Clint Brown, and I would say Clint Brown in Orlando. If you're in the Orlando area, you got to check out Judah Church. Phenomenal ministry, phenomenal man of God. Um, he by far was the best I've ever been a part of.
Mm.
And Gino took me in um, off of your recommendation, and I've actually took over for the lady that was there for quite some time.
Yeah.
Or
Miss Kitty.
yeah, Miss Kitty. It is an honor to be a part of the family now. Coming in after Miss Kitty, the people were saying, "Well, you have some tough shoes to fill." I think that everybody carries um, a gifting within themselves. God gives each of us a gift.
Right.
So I don't look at it like it was a slight towards me,
No,
you know.
it's actually a compliment.
Yeah. So I would definitely say that I've been under some great leadership and some people that have mentored me in both areas in the church realm and also in um, the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
So
Well, I would say, as far as church is concerned, you know, the man who mentored me in um, in worship is the incomparable Dr. Bishop Mark Sharon.
oh yeah.
I was with him when he was still in Raleigh, North Carolina, um, and just you talk about somebody who would just sit there, take you in worship from the keyboard, playing and singing. The next thing you know, he gets up and preaches his dynamic word, and you're like, wait a minute. And you come out scratching your head, be like, it's like, where did all of this insight come from?
Did you work for him, right? You were in the
Yeah.
ministry.
Was in his
Wow.
ministry for,
How
gosh,
often do you get a
like
chance to?
13, 14 years, I think it was.
How often do we get a chance to work somewhere where you're being fed as well? I mean, that's a hard thing to find. Is
Well, not only is it hard to find, it's also hard to when it doesn't happen anymore.
I mean, it's
Because it's like you get used to it, and it's kind of hard for really to um, I hate to say it this way, but it's hard to be open to anything else when you have something on that high of a level.
yeah,
Um, because you feel like it's almost like you feel like you're being slighted um, by just because the standard was so high.
right.
And it's no slight on anybody else. It's just, because again, like you were saying, people operate in their giftings and different things of that sort. I just happen to be blessed to have been a part of, that type of ministry, being mentored by somebody on that level.
Both in Orlando.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's strange.
Yeah.
Wow. I can remember one time, just going down memory lane right now. I was church was at a high praise and worship level, and I never will forget this. Clint Brown turned around, took off his expensive watch, and handed it to me during service. And now most people out in the audience couldn't really see that,
Yeah.
but um, I was like, what in the world is going on right now?
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I mean, I've experienced some things in churches, but I've never experienced a gracious and a humility um, in someone that, it was just uh, uh, the experience that I would cherish for the rest of my life, and it actually instilled some values in me, instilled some leadership qualities and capabilities within me, and I just knew I'm just like, why would he do
Yeah.
that?
Well, I mean, it's funny you say that because, like I said, Dr. Shimona, any given time would come to church, whether it was midweek service or Sunday, and be like, it just, come to the office or whatever, and you would have all of these clothes just laid out. Like, I'm talking like expensive clothes,
Mhm.
be belts, uh, suits, sport coats, slacks, you know, stuff that was his that he was just giving away.
Awesome.
And, and it was just like, if you were his size, you didn't have to buy no clothes because he just, would just willingly give the stuff away. But at the same time, also look at another side where I'll never forget, we were up, it's a Sunday morning service doing worship, and he literally told us as a worship team, he's like, just stop and sit down. And it was like, we're like, what? He said, no, this is our flesh.
Mm.
He sat us down that day, right there during the service. It
Mm.
wasn't, we didn't let this stuff go on. Then he sat down at the keyboard, did worship.
That's right, because he sings and plays.
Yeah.
Wow.
He got up and he preached after that. And I'll say this, that never happened again. That's how he wanted that platform. So it taught me, it was a it was a hard rebuke, but it also taught me how serious and sacred worship is, to where you don't just get up and just do it. And a lot of people don't see there's that fine line between performance and actually worshiping.
That's a hard thing to do.
It's a very
It's
hard thing.
hard. When you're gifted in that area, most people don't call playing the piano and singing as a gift. Of course, we know that that's not a spiritual gift, but anything that God gives you is a gift to me. So I don't understand the dilemma there. I know the difference. I use the word gift for a reason because anything that God gives you is a gift. Breath is a gift.
Yeah.
So when you're utilizing your gift and you are, it's like you get on a given Sunday, you can probably receive about I would say 20 to 30, you are pats on the back that props you up, that gives you encouragement, but it also, if you're not careful as someone who's taking in all those compliments, you I mean, from Sunday to Sunday, you hear this all the time. Wow, you're great, you're great, you're great. And how do you, yeah, how do you uh, overcome such high esteem from Sunday to Sunday to Sunday, and not be in your flesh and not perform per se? You,
Well,
you know,
what I find is that it's continual consecration. It's continually just putting down your flesh, continually, daily, and being open to receive from the Spirit, because freely you have received, freely give. So if you're not in that posture of having a lifestyle of worship on a daily basis, you'll be in performance all day long, because the job really of, we'll say, the lead worshiper versus the worship leader is you're taking people to a place you've already been consistently throughout the week. It doesn't just happen. You don't all of a sudden the anointing don't doesn't just fall on you on Sunday morning right before you do it. Because if you don't have a lifestyle and a practice of doing these things, it will show, you know. And it comes down to that point to where you are operating out of flesh and performance.
mhm,
Because one thing the church is very good at is putting out the buzzwords. You'll get them on this. Oh, you better come on and praise the Lord and all this other stuff like that. You're working people up
I think,
versus just worshiping, and you're inviting people to that place that you've already been.
yeah, yeah. I can remember I can go back to the moment that just spending time, when you're in that capacity as a musician, you spend a lot of time with your leaders. So what happens is you get to know their nature, and you get to experience them on a simple, more I would say relevant encounter, where a lot of people don't see what we see
Right.
on a day-to-day basis. So you're only exposed to the man of God, but we are exposed to the man.
Exactly.
And the reason why I point out a person like Clint Brown, because he exemplified, this is what we did. So he hired musicians full time. To me, that speaks volumes, because it's just like it is was in the Bible in terms of the Levites and what they did and what their job was. So he got it. In order to maintain an excellence of worship, praise, and delivering to the people what they're needing, we were put in a position where we didn't half do something. So it was all excellence. And so he had to hire us full time, because that's the only way. In other words, if I'm out in the work field and I'm you know 8 hours there, and then I only do rehearsals for 2 hours, then what are you going to get from me? You're not going to get half of
Two
something that
hours.
we put together. Yeah. So so
You'll get a 2 hour
you're
performance.
going to get a 2 hour performance, and you're going to be winging it. Or this is what we do on a day-to-day basis in our churches. We don't look at it like, okay, uh especially if you're not a musician. As a pastor, you're on a different mindset in terms of running the church.
Right.
And musically, your leadership and your worshipers are experiencing the same thing. They're out slaving
Yeah.
in the work field, And then when you come to even just a rehearsal, how can you perfect something to where it's, you know, so, I mean, as it relates to a Sunday morning, how can you present something that's of excellence? How can you? Even when you have, even when you have a choir that is not so skilled as the worship leaders are, but how can you give something?
Well, again, you can't give what you don't have. Number one. Number two is differentiating between a gig and a commitment. Because you can hire musicians to do gigs, but if they're not committed to that ministry, how, you know, how can you really get the spirit of the house? To your point, what person like, Pastor Clint Brown, he got it because he's like, okay, I'm going to make this investment in you financially because I want your commitment. So I'm going to meet you there. And that's why his live recordings are so powerful because he's got committed musicians. You don't have musicians that are doing gigs, And what I see nowadays is you have musicians that play for this church, they play for that church, they play for this church, they play for that church. You know, they may have, you know, 3 churches a week that they're playing for. I would argue that those are 3 gigs because are you really committed to that particular ministry? I'm not saying you're not committed to God. I won't go that far. But are you making a commitment to that ministry? But at the same time, those ministries also have a responsibility to meet you somewhere as well, because you're requiring all of this of me, but it doesn't seem like you're meeting me to make it, I guess, worth it for me, so to speak. If this is what I do, you know.
Another thing I noticed that when we were hired full time, we were growing. Granted, we still had some secular things about us. So I think some people still went out and gigged and did some things to make ends meet. But as musicians and singers of the house,
Mhm.
I think it's so important that you are in an environment of growth because it helps um, that service on us on the every week you do things religiously. If you're not full time, then it's like you're giving half. When we were there, we were growing. Even if we weren't in the Bible, reading the Bible, we were growing in terms of being in that atmosphere.
Right.
So you had a worship leader there who was practicing with us, and every now and then, um, although you're practicing, every now and then you go in, because you're like, this song is really, really ministering to me right here, right now. And I get to experience this every day on a full-time basis. Wow. I
Right.
mean, how much more prepared can you be to exemplify what God has done for you? And I think most times when we're playing, we're not playing from an experience. We're playing out of talents and gifts.
Mhm.
But when you are playing from the fact that, wow, this song is ministering to me, then I think that is the greatest um, experience. We're giving to the people, but I think that musicians need to minister from their own heart, from their own stance of who they know God is to them. That to me makes the best ministry person ever, because if, like you said, and I was told this once before, you also can't take somebody where you not been. I remember being embarrassed when that was told to me. I was up singing somewhere, and I was doing a song because they called me out, and and I was ministering, and I will never forget. I will say the name, and I will remember this. I remember that thing that he said to me years ago, and his name was Javen Campbell.
Mm,
Javen said, and he wasn't talking to me, but he was talking to the choir
mm,
because this is after I finished singing. He said, "You know, you can't take somebody somewhere you've never been,"
mm.
and that stuck with me back in 1999. I remember when he said it, and it was so piercing because he was right. He was right. You can't take someone where you've never been. You can talk about it, you can share, but if you're not going there, you really can't speak on it in a way that it's palatable for somebody else who's listening. You really can't bring that power and anointing forth because you have not gone there.
Right.
You've not been there. How can you lead me somewhere that you've not gone? And how can I lead you anywhere? I may just be playing the keyboard, but if I'm not going to the place where where I can bring um, my experience of what did for me through that keyboard. If I can't do that, then why am I playing? What are we doing? So the next best thought to that is you're just performing. You're just performing.
I, I don't see it any other way
Yeah.
because again, you can't give what you don't have. You can't have what you haven't received. That's what it boils down to. You know, you know, just like with my daughters, I can be the best father I can be to them, but I cannot teach them how to be a woman because I'm not a woman. I could say these are the qualities that I see in a woman,
Hmm.
you know, but I can't teach them how to be a woman.
Hmm.
I can do the surface things like if you're wearing a dress or a skirt, keep your legs closed, that type of thing, cross your legs, that type of stuff, because that's etiquette. I can tell you what's proper etiquette, but I can't teach them how to be women because I'm not a woman, you know. And so, with that being said, I can only go but so far, right? It's the same thing with dealing with again with worship, praise and worship. Whatever. You cannot lead people where you haven't been yourself. You just can't. Not successfully.
Right. Yeah, I was just going to say that because doesn't mean that a person must be experienced in every circumstance before they can help you, but it certainly is more fruitful, and I can expound on it more, or I can shed some more light if I've been there, or if I've you know experienced something
Right.
on that level. I've never been an alcoholic, so but I can share some things to trigger your mind to thinking in the right direction. You know,
Well, I mean, but at the same time, it's like one of those things of with meeting with a group of brothers last night. Um,
that's at the barbershop.
yeah, you might
Love
not
that
have
concept.
you might not have had that. Alcohol might not be an addiction for you, but what are you addicted to? You know what I'm saying? So those that's just some of the stuff that we were speaking about last night. Because some of these brothers, I commend them, man. This one brother spoke about how it was his first time coming, but he spoke about how he said he got up and stood up before the group of brothers, and he said, you know, I am a proud recovering heroin addict.
Mm,
And he said something that was very powerful. He said, I did heroin every day for 30 years. Every day for 30 years. And he said 10 of those years I was in prison. And it was just like, wow. And then he repeated, he said, do the math. Now, of course, I got it the first time he said it, but it's just like, wow, you know. And one of the other things he said, when it comes to reaching people, the people that they respected in the dope houses were the ones that came and just talked to them.
Mm.
And he said one of the brothers pulled out a knot of money and he said, if what you're saying to me can get me this, I'll put this down in a minute. But this is how I feed my family because I got felonies, this, that, the other, and things of that sort. So it was like, it's very powerful. But the whole premise of it is that we have all of these get togethers where we get together where the people that, all, seem like we all got it together, right?
Hmm.
Well, who's going out to the people that really need the information? And so, yes, I personally cannot speak to somebody who is addicted to heroin about overcoming heroin because I've never done it before. However, I can give them words of encouragement or whatever, and and then linking up with this brother who just who shared last night. If I did run into somebody like that, I got somebody you can talk to.
Yeah.
So it's about being that conduit as well.
And being available.
Right.
Yeah, because I can remember years and years, and as I think back on it now, sitting down at the piano just performing, right? Um, and the thought process is who's listening to me.
Mhm.
Every time I sat down, I'm like, so I wanted to pull all the tools out and really showcase and highlight what I know on the piano. But and I did that for years. I mean, I'm talking about years on top of years. In church, wherever I was, it was all about me. What can I play that will impress you? Did that for years, but it wasn't until I started gaining value on or gaining understanding and uh, um, of why I exist. And that's why I was saying, there are many issues that people have and many circumstances. So my point for even bringing this up is why? Why am I playing the piano? I think it first starts with, and we talked about this last week. First things first is why am I doing this? Why, even though I'm receiving compensation for this, why am I really doing this? And especially why am I doing this in church? And maybe it's receiving compensation even while I'm in church, but why am I doing this? Why? Well, in other words, probably even back up from there. Why did God give you this? Or why did you go through that to have that knowledge that you have?
Mhm.
Why did you give me this, Lord? If I start there, then I could have a more, then I can assess value to that, which creates a better response.
Well, and I think what it boils down to is actually being honest with yourself and where you're at. Because if um, we look at the overall situation, I just asked the question: what uh, musicians, what is one of the things that people say about musicians, just on a personal level?
Oh, they're cocky, uh, arrogant.
What are some of the other statements?
Uh, I don't know.
Something along the lines of, "I bet you get a lot of women, don't you?"
Oh yeah, well yeah, that's yeah. I think I saw a podcast on that.
Yeah, I mean, I know that. Yeah, I know you got the ladies just
Yeah,
falling
there's
out
definitely
for
a
it.
stigma. Yeah. Well, this is actually real.
But it's real.
Yeah.
Yes, it's real. So with it being, with us saying that,
Hmm.
some people aspire to be musicians because that boosts their esteem because of the attention they get. Because I want to have ladies falling out over me, this, that, and the other. So I'm going to perfect this craft and whatnot, so I can get into this situation to where I can attract
Hmm.
that type of life.
Hmm.
So it goes back to what you're saying as well. What is the real reason you're doing what you do? Because the gifts come without repentance, right? So it's what you do with the gift. And with it, a lot of times with a lot of gifts comes influence. You know,
Yes.
why do people want to be around the pastor at church all the time? And why do pastors go into pastoring? Is it because they may be addicted to the attention as well? And a lot of times you can see it through the effects of the effectiveness or the ineffectiveness of the ministry. If somebody is really truly operating in a calling versus this is something to do because I have a way to influence people with words, different things of that sort. But deep down inside, I might have been a little boy who didn't get a lot of attention. So I need to get into some type of field or some type of vocation that is going to bring me that attention I did not get as a little boy.
Hmm.
That's why therapy is important also. Because getting into the why you do what you do and what's the real reason and being honest about it.
Yeah, that I have a scripture here that says, 1 Peter 4:10, as every man hath received the gift, even so minister the same one to another, as good stewards of the manifold grace of God. So what we all been given is an opportunity to serve and to serve others in the capacity of generosity.
Mhm.
Um, I learned this later on in life, and that's even palatable for relationships because a lot of times we get in relationships for our own selfish gain. And that soon comes to its own demise because what we're in it for is to please ourselves, and we just run into this wall, um, and which causes friction and arguments and fights and this and that. So you eventually leave that situation not even contributing that there's a selfishness that you are exhibiting that's causing the blockage of unity to coexist. So, and I spent I still remember some of the things that you were talking about, just going through high school and being bullied and not being accepted. A lot of times I was called white boy because I was so light and I was hanging around my black friends. So you're talking about years and years of rejection.
Mhm.
So imagine you coming into the world of being received and receiving esteem, receiving um, accolades, and so there's a desire to want to feel significant
Mhm. Yeah.
and accepted. And a lot of times we don't know what's going on with us. Why are we responding this way? I think the neutralizer is exactly what you were pointing out is um, you have to bring what God has given you to the knowledge of application. Why are you receiving something that everybody loves? Why are you receiving also something that most people need. Um, so I can see where stewardship comes into play. I can see, well, you have to learn how to even be, if you don't have it automatically within you. A lot of times the gift of giving is just automatic in some people. But as far as the giving aspect of what you have and what God has given you, sometimes we have to learn how. And we learn how by being gracious, following the hands that have provided for you, following the streamline of what people have done for you, like my mother, my father, following the things that, and this is why I go back to some of my leaders and me watching them give.
Mhm.
Those were good examples of giving.
Right.
So when you're watching those things, it gives you a better perspective in terms of why you exist. Why are you receiving something so magnified by others? Why do you have this? You have to go there, because if you don't go there, then you will. I see musicians a lot of times on Sunday mornings, and they're just playing and they're going through the motions, and then when the preacher gets up, they go right to the back. To me, that's showing immaturity there, but it's also an indicator of a lack of. I don't care who's up preaching. You can get something from them to be added to your life. Why would you do that? Because I appreciate who God, what God gave me, and who He made me to be. So if I'm not, and like it goes back to what you were saying, if we don't position ourselves to receive, then we have nothing to really give. So I stay there on that piano. A lot of people say, "Why are you staying on the piano while the preacher is preaching?" You stay right there while the preacher is preaching, because it doesn't matter who's preaching. I don't care if you're not giving me a word. I'm gonna sit right there. Why? Because I appreciate God for allowing me to sit there in the first place.
Well, watch this. They didn't have to call you.
Right.
I look at that as well. How many you can't even count the amount of musicians just in the Tampa Bay area, right?
Hmm.
You know, I'm not talking about just people that just mess around. I'm talking about like for real, right? God brought this to my attention, a while back, and it kind of shook me, but it also gave me an appreciation. First of all, who God is, but at the same time, the opportunities that God has given me, right? And I say all that to say, out of all these musicians in the Tampa Bay area, we'll just say the Tampa Bay area,
Hmm.
I've been chosen, you've been chosen to play at Donatello. So I don't take stuff like that for granted. Just like you're saying, as far as the church is concerned,
Right.
you were selected and chosen to be there. So you are being a good steward by saying, I'm going to sit here regardless of who's preaching, because I'm gracious and grateful to God that I was chosen to be here. Goes back to commitment versus a gig, being committed versus performing.
Hmm.
That's it's we have to connect the dots, and it's like, what is it that we, because at the end of the day, it's really not about the money that's received. It's not about that. It's other things, the influence and different things of that sort. Um, you know, what you're associated with. Because where we play, I guarantee you, people they assume that the pay is like, but it's not about the pay. It's not about the money. It's not about that at all. It's about being grateful that not only that you were considered, but chosen to be in a place. Because I don't care what anybody says, nobody has to do anything for you. It's not a requirement. Nobody has to do anything for you.
Yeah.
It's not a requirement at all. So I happen to take the posture to be very, very appreciative of anything that somebody does for me and my family on top of that. Because I'll say this, being a part of the Donatello family, my entire family is included with that as
Mhm.
well. The amount of respect that is given, the amount of honor that is given to every member of my family that steps through those doors, bro. That's, I don't take that stuff lightly at all because nobody has to do it. That's not a requirement of God that you have to treat people this way. This that it's not a requirement. Even passing somebody on the street that's homeless
Mhm.
or whatever, or dire straits, whatever the terminology you want to use, you know, no, how many people ride by those people all the time? I mean, I'm guilty of it sometimes because sometimes the discernment kicks in, you know, um, and I know somebody's gaming or whatever, this, that, and the other. But I have been in other situations to where if somebody's saying to me, I'm hungry, I'll get you some food. I'll get you some food, but I'm not gonna give you any money. Because if food is what you want, I'm gonna get you some food.
Mhm.
And if you are genuinely hungry, you'll eat whatever I buy for you.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about some slop or something like that, but you know what I'm saying.
Mhm.
You know, I guarantee you, if you're really hungry, if somebody goes through, let's just say we had the drive through at Burger King. I'll just use that as an example. Somebody's out there that say, oh, I really could use some food or whatever. You go through the drive through because I've done it before. You get a whole meal or something like that, and you give it to the person. And if the person is really, uh, if they're really hungry, they're not gonna say, I mean, I appreciate this, but I really didn't want no mayonnaise.
Mhm.
They're gonna take what you give them if they're really hungry.
Mhm.
It's palatable. You know, and when you're in a certain situation, you know, your choices become more limited in order for survival. That's kind of heavy right
uh, uh, I was reading something. Um, when you're in performance mode, you're missing opportunities, and it's almost like you're putting someone in a casualty position where it's all about your game, and it's all about um, what you are receiving,
there.
which is praise, admiration, this and that. But you're missing an opportunity. Even though when we're playing in the restaurant Donatello's, if it was all about the money and all about the performance, there are missed opportunities in even in that environment. And I experienced something that you were doing the last time I was with you, and you just actually went into a uh, uh, a song, and it was like, wow, okay, we're gonna go there. Yes, we are, because that's who we are. And you can't stop who you are based on money and opportunities. Sometimes, when you're in that work environment, you have to work,
Yeah.
but you also are given the opportunity to do some other things if you're paying attention. What I also um, pay attention to is when you're in performance, you're not as sensitive. You are closed and you're unaware of your surroundings. And the same thing happens when you are in an environment as it relates to a relationship. If you are a selfish individual, you are missing opportunities to be a blessing. to that individual that God has called to your life or didn't. There's so many so many things that you're blocking because all of it's almost like I'm in this world and it's all about my advancement. It's all about, you know, the opportunity. We call them opportunists.
Yeah.
They used to call me an opportunist when I was younger because I went after the money. I went after it wouldn't take long for me to be at this church. And then when somebody offered me more money, I would be at that church. And somebody offered me more money, I would be at that church. That's just what it was. And I was just chasing the money. And so when you chase the money, you're closing yourself off of actual provision from God because He says He will provide your needs according to His riches and glory. So when you're putting your mindset in a performance mode, going after your own food, um, blocking everything that somebody could have, all based on what you think you need. Uh, I mean, you're almost an animal, and you're going after your own stuff, after your own food. You hunting, and you on the prowl to.
Yeah. Well, the other thing with that too is you also set yourself up to be not only used but used and abused.
Yeah.
Because if you are attracted to and addicted to the money, somebody can just mistreat you
Hmm.
all day long because the one who holds the upper hand is the one that's in control of that particular situation or whatever. And if somebody recognizes that your why is money, you're setting yourself up to be used by the money,
Hmm.
and to where you start get to a point to where if you don't catch it, you'll lose a sense of who you really are. That's why you have to be connected to the why. You have to know your why
Hmm.
as why you do what you want to do.
Hmm.
People ask me all the time, don't come into the restaurant, well, where else do you play? So we just do here in private stuff. Really? Like, yeah. And you do music full time. Yeah. I'm not going to chase money. Just not going to do it because everything is not the right fit. And I tell people all the time, anytime it gets to a point where I feel like this is a job, I even said this to Gino. It's like, if I feel like this becomes a job, I told it to the band as well. It's like, when I get to that point and I feel like I'm working a job, I quit.
Yeah, it's time.
I quit because you'll lose a sense of who you are if you allow money and that
Yeah.
acquisition of money to control you. That's why I believe the scripture says the love of money is the root of all evil. But at the same time, money answers all things. But the key word in there is the love of money,
Hmm.
root of all evil. So you'll do sometimes the most unthinkable things and whatnot. And with the example that you gave, it's like, glad that you came to a point where you recognize that, okay, I've been chasing the money because this person, they're gonna give me more, so I'm gonna go over here, this, that, and the other. So you're out of commitment at that point.
And you know, the strangest thing, it's what I've noticed in the last encounters with pastors. Some pastors want performers. It's
Yeah,
the strangest thing. I mean, I
because they want to perform.
but here's a no, but here's another thing to add to that is they want a performer up to perform for them because they are paying the tithes and they don't want to be put to sleep. So they want performers. It's just I
You know this is, don't you?
yeah, puppets, yeah.
Yeah. So I want to control this particular situation. Yeah.
And you know how quiet I am. I'm more laid back and I'm more reserved, but I can sing and I can play, right? But in certain environments, I am not wanted. I'm not
I'm
wanting.
the same way, but it's okay,
Yeah, it is.
because
It really is okay
I
because
know I know my lane.
right.
I know where my true gifting is
Yeah.
and whatnot.
And certain people have everybody has a different voice. Everybody have a different style. I've always been the type of person where I am not going to emulate you. I what I'm not going to do is try to be you. So I'm only going to be me. Why? Because I'm not going to be a manipulator of my own self. I know God gave me the gift that He gave me. Now I can perfect the gift. I can sit down and I can practice chords and I can, practice this and that. But what I'm not going to do is shun God. What you gave me is good enough for whoever you gave it for. So I'm not going to be you, and I'm not going to make you're not going to make me be them. That's not what I'm going to
Well,
do.
that's what I was gonna say. To the point to where I'm glad you went there with the shunning God, because basically what you're communicating to God in that particular instance is that what you gave me is not good enough,
Right,
and I'm not really grateful for what you gave me.
right,
But I'm still going to operate in this because what I do know, my linear thoughts is that I know that your word says that the gift came without repentance.
hmm
So you're not going to take it from me. But I just want to put you on notice, God, that I'm not satisfied with what you gave me
right,
because I'm trying. That's the one I really want right
right.
there. And it's just like, at the end of the day, you got to be honest with what it really is, because that's the only way that you're going to be free from anything is to be honest with where you are.
Yeah, I'm going to be different because I'm going after that. Um, and I remember I was playing this church and they're paying some good money, but I refuse to change. I refuse to be a loudmouth. I refuse to dominate and try to control people based upon my standards, right? I have standards.
Got to get this money, Doc.
Right, right. So here's the thing. When you're working in institutions like Baptist institutions, and I understand, but if I ain't, if I'm wanting to do things in excellence, like just demand people to be on time. Oh, you best believe you ain't gonna talk to Susie over there about being on time because she's the biggest type payer. So you're gonna leave what you're gonna do is you're gonna leave that alone, right? So, and I understand it's an institution, right? So when you're going after money, here's the thing: you will settle in, or you would hold your standards high, hold your position because what you are doing is godly. There's nothing wrong with me placing a standard in place so that we can do things because we only have a certain limited time. These are not full-time people. So what now I have to do is, since you're not full-time, now I have to make sure that the time that we have is allocated and and we're productive in that time frame that I'm given.
Yeah.
But when you're working in an institution like that, bro, bro,
The
you
funny thing about that, bro, is that you know it's striving for excellence, right? And one of the ways to get to excellence is commitment, you know, and and that's what it is. I mean, yes, I get it. Things come up and stuff like that, but with some individuals, something comes up every time. You know where I'm going with that.
hmm
Yeah, there's always something. So you can't tell me that your life is in that much of disarray that we already just know that you're just gonna be late. And what you're doing is you're disrespecting all these other people's time and whatnot. But to your point, just because Sister Susie is a big tither and all this other kind of stuff, we can't say nothing to Sister Susie. So I'm sorry, I'm just not that guy. You know, and that's what bothers me with a lot of stuff. And then going back to as far as the what I found, you know, because you're talking about, yeah, we got to get this money, right? Doing certain things. in order to get this money. You know, some of the churches that I know that are debt free, you know, one of the things that they don't do,
Go after that money.
don't even talk about the money.
Nope.
They ain't talk about it. They'll put something up on a slide up or something like that. These are the ways to give or whatever, but that's it. This is this is how you can give. Those churches are debt free, bro.
Yeah, yeah. We that's a whole nother. But I mean, we're still talking about, what you are doing and what God has given you to give, but we compensate the gift for our own needs.
Yeah.
We just hijack the gift, and then it's very easy to do because I've done it for years. I've done it for years. I perfected a gift so much so where it's noticeable.
Uh-huh.
But why are you given this is the point. And as a pastor and as a musician, singers, or whatever the case may be, you have to come to that three-letter word. Why? Why? Because you can very easily go into what Satan crafted his mind to think.
Yeah. I mean, and it's one of those things, man. It's like learning how to read a room, right? You remember the time we were in Donatello, and you and I were just up there, whatever, waiting time to start, and somebody just came up. I think I was just adjusting the sound or something like that. Just going, adjusting the sound, whatever. Somebody came up, put $50 in the tip jar and said, "Oh, look, we really appreciate you guys. We're gonna go have dinner." And your response to me was like, "Wow, I see you, Scott." And that's why I don't worry about the money because money comes. And when I see a certain individual that comes in, no matter who they are or whatever, I won't mention the name, but there's a guy that comes in, he loves a certain song. I won't even mention the song because that might give it away as well. But when I see him, that's the first song I'll play. And a lot of times I'll say to the band, I say, "We're gonna do this song and just watch." That man sitting up there, his back to the band, he's up the bar or whatever. Here's the intro. I won't even get the song, man. Turn around. Yeah. And a lot of times he's with, somebody or whatever. He'll put money in that person's hand, put this
To
in the
go
tip
there.
jar. And it's never less than $50 because he appreciates that song. And so, as entertainers, musicians, whatever, or just in life, when you know that something touches somebody, do it because you just never know what's going to happen. You don't know what that person's story is. You don't know the why. And you don't have to know the why for everything. You just have to know the why for yourself. But you don't have to know the why for everything. But there are things that just break in people because there's some, especially this day and age, people are wrestling with so much stuff. So the very thing that happens with some people to where they feel like somebody is paying attention to me is liberating.
Hmm.
And they have a treasure themselves that they're willing to give
Yeah.
because somebody is paying attention to me.
Yeah.
And with this whole thing that goes on with mental health and all this other kind of stuff, I mean, that's the thing now, which, I'm an advocate for people, getting mentally healthy. Because I went to a thing Saturday and a survey came out of all of the presenters and stuff like that, which one stood out to you the most, this, that, and the other. It wasn't a comparison, but it was just like which one stood out to you. There was several different categories, the presenters that did it. The one I said that stood out the most to me was the mental health. And here's why. You get your mental health in order, which this also can go along with scripture and your relationship with God. You get your mental health in order, all these other things fall in line because you'll be able to recognize gifts
Mhm.
and things of that sort. When you get that together, everything else can spring from it. And it becomes to that point to where you love the God in you, the God that created you, to the point to where now you're open to receive all of these things that he has for you. Because seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. So you get that right. And if your relationship with Christ is right, and you have that much of a love for Christ, you open yourself up to all of these things. Because he's not disjointed, he's not disconnected. So all of these things are, they spring from seeking him first
Mhm.
and having that relationship right.
I was just giving a comment when you can't spot a need with greed.
Somebody commented that.
No, I
Oh,
just, it just popped in my head. You can't spot a need with greed
right.
because it's definitely a blockade. You can have the gift of leadership and how you lead people um, is based on their needs and not your task
Right.
or what you are trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Your first obligation should be to give them what they need to be able to accomplish what the goal is.
Right.
And like you were saying, reading a room. So if you have 20 people that you're leading, your first goal should be what are their needs?
Right. That's how I can properly minister to my wife.
Hmm.
It's because if I'm more concerned about what her needs are, do you know the benefits that come from that, bro? And I'm not just talking,
Yeah, we know.
but the benefits that come from
Yeah,
that, because again, women are built as far as needing security.
right. And love. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when my wife feels secure, the sky's the limit. So I think the best recipe as far as relationship is concerned, where the husband is solely focused on fulfilling his wife's needs, and the wife is solely fulfilled in seeking the husband's needs or fulfilling the husband's needs rather.
Hmm.
No needs go unmet.
Right.
So it's all about serving at the end of the day. What did Jesus do when he came? He came to serve. He didn't come to be served because a lot of people didn't know who he was. And he walked amongst the midst every day. They didn't have a clue who he was, but he came to serve. Right? So that's for me that's paramount.
Yeah.
To you know it's like the situation that happened yesterday when I gave you a call.
Hmm.
The lady asked me this, that, and the other, so blah blah blah. That's the first time I ever met the lady. She was having a meeting with my wife. My wife, I was in the car with our daughter. My wife said, "Oh, I want you to come and meet this lady, this, that, and the other," and stuff. I got out the car. Me and my daughter, we got out, we went in, this, that, and the other, and that's when she said, what she said or whatever. And her, my wife was still talking. I called you, put it on speakers, and dropped it on the desk. Like, here you go. Y'all go from there. And that's what it's about. You know, it's about action. One of the things my wife said to her, she said, that's the way my husband is. Because she said, because sometimes I'll be like, I had to tell her, hold on, wait a minute. No, no, you said this is what you need. I have, an, you know, access to someone that could fulfill that need if things are right or whatever y'all agree with, whatever you agree. And I walk out. It's not about any compensation for me. It wasn't because I didn't have to say this to the lady, but I know your situation because you and I have a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so that's what we do. That's what a true brother, a true friend does, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and wherever that goes, it goes. But that also shows up that you know the type of person that I am. Also, when it comes down to that.
It's interesting is when you're hunting for your provision, when you're hunting for your provision, you're running from your gifts.
That's why I tell people, bro.
Because you're not in place. Like if a gift is hunting you down, and it's already a designated place for you
It's like the
to
dog
be
chasing the
found.
tail, bro.
Right. So when you're hunting for your gifts, your provision, um, you're running from your gifts and what God has for you because you're not in place to receive it. So it's kind of like the people can't even get what God has given you because you're running from it. So now what you're giving them is you. You're not giving him what God gave you. You're giving him you. So that's why I was speaking to somebody the other day, and it was like, "Well, how can you love me?" Right? Just out of conversation is because talking about love. And love is my conversation. Love and relationship. Well, when I said this, they were like, "Don't make no sense. You don't want me because I don't have anything to give you. You don't want me. You don't want me. What you want and what you need is God." Because if you get my love, you're gonna get half. You're gonna get shortchanged. Because what I have to give you, it's gonna be a physical thing, and it's not gonna be what you need. It may be camouflage in what you think you need, but the ultimate source of what you're actually needing, you're not gonna get that from me. And especially if I don't have God in my life. Cancel Christmas. Because you're not going to get what you need. You need God. So if I say I love you, what does that really mean? My temperament is not what you need. My patience is not what you need. You need the patience of God. You need God's temperament. You need his kindness. You need his long suffering. You don't need mine because mine is short.
got short suffering.
You don't need what you don't need is me. So
Say you got short suffering.
yeah, there you go. It's real short. It's got a clock on it. It's time clock. It's got an alert. It goes off. So what you don't need is me. And they looked at me like, yeah, that makes sense. That's why when somebody tell you that they love you, what is the real thing what are they actually saying to you?
Well, what does God say? God says, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. But at the same time, there's the other side of that is, but you can't keep them.
Right. Right. That part. That part.
If you love me, you'll keep my commandments, but you will never be able to fulfill them all. Because the way I've looked at it for many, many years, and people was like, well, what about when you do all of the Ten Commandments? And I said, well, you're guilty of one. And the word says if you're guilty of one, you're guilty of them all, right? And I'm like, what do you mean? Well, you're guilty of the one says, "Have no other God before me," because you made the commandments to God. So that nullifies the rest of it because you're too busy trying to do everything right. When the man says you can't do it, that's why he sent Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, I got to do this myself because I know that you can't do it.
Right. Yeah. And you don't want me. That's why when I was
In other words, what he's saying, what Ernest is saying, is that he's a short-suffering person.
yes, you don't want me. You don't want that. That's not what you want. That's not what you want. That's why that's why people think that I'm so weird when I tell people that when we have this conversation about love in relationship, and I have to break this down to people in the simplest format, is when you walk down the aisle and you at the preachers giving y'all vows, and and you share your love, and you say say your vows or whatever. That is not when you love that individual. Now if you've been with them for like 2 years or 3 years, oh well, I'll say more than about 4 years, you can probably say you love that individual. But if you ain't had no time
I
in,
ain't waiting that long, bro.
if you ain't had no time in, you at the altar, you saying I love you and this and that, that's cute.
Yeah, but I ain't waiting that long.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm just saying.
If it was for me and my wife, if it would have taken me 4 years to say, okay, let's go ahead and get married or whatever, or will you marry me?
My point is,
I know what your point
yeah,
is. I'm not making
yeah.
that long. Because I'm like, because if it takes me, I mean, especially when I know that I'm never going to really fully know you
Right.
because you're constantly evolving, just like I'm constantly evolving.
Hmm.
There's certain things that, yes, that will remain constant and stuff like that because the core of who I am
Right.
is what you're really looking
Right.
for.
Right. You don't want me because that's why people are very, very vague when they're looking for a partner, is because what they're looking for
Physical
is not really
things.
revealed to them in terms of the physical. It's never going to be revealed to you in the
It's a
physical.
physical entry.
That's right. It's never going. You ain't going. You're not. I don't care what kind of microscope you have looking at the individual. You're not going to see them who they really are in the physical. You need to have a visual of the spirit realm, which only comes by way of God. That's His address. You don't connect with God through the flesh. So if you're trying to get married and you want to find the right partner, if you're not spiritual, good luck with that, because that's not how you're going to find your husband. You're going to have to connect with God. And back to this point in terms of giving, um, who you are as it relates to what God has given you, it has to come to a level of understanding. Is that again? It goes back to what I was saying about the love factor. You don't want to give someone less than what they're asking you for.
Mm.
God doesn't do that with us.
Right.
He doesn't take, if you need healing, to just tell you healing right away, for you to only receive 50% of what the doctor, hey, you recover 50. God wants to blow your mind. He wants to knock it out the park. He wants to uh, facilitate everything you are needing according to His will, not for your life. Sometimes He will withhold things, but that's for your betterment. So you don't want to give somebody half of something. But how would you even know what you're giving them if is half, if you're not in the spirit realm? So I had to come to that conclusion. It's not good enough for to me to call myself a musician or a singer or a minister. That is not the point. And giving titles to someone is not, it's not doing anything. Giving me a title is not doing anything for me.
Right.
What do you need is my goal in life right now. Is if I have an opportunity to come before one person,
Mhm.
what do you actually need? it has to be your life's agenda. When you discover that, then you're on your way to knocking it out of the park, because what you have done is you have connected with God
Yeah.
at that point. You have connected with him.
That's the key, connection.
Hmm.
You know, connection with the one who gave you the blueprint. Yeah. Because how do you get to the guts of a house or a structure or a building? You gotta go to the original blueprints. Because you don't know what's in between these walls and things of that sort. Because if you don't know, let's just say that we, like when you hung this TV, you did a very good job, by the way. But when you hung this TV, you couldn't do guesswork.
Right. Come on, somebody.
Because you might have hit a main line, this, that, and the other, all that type of stuff. You had to have some type of knowledge of what was in between these walls. Because you could have made a small error that cost you a lot of money. Let that rest a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because you didn't take the time to know or to get familiar with what's not revealed to your physical sight at that particular time. You have to dig deeper into what's behind this wall.
That brings it stabilization.
Yeah. But, you know, because it's not just knowing where the studs are. But is there something in between those studs that could be very, very destructive? So it's the same thing in life, period. When you're dealing with other human beings,
Mm-hmm.
especially somebody that's just saying, "Okay, I want to spend the rest of my life with you." Let's have those tough conversations, so we don't waste each other's time potentially. Because if I know my non-negotiables and she's my wife now, but before when she was my somebody that we were, just being cool and whatnot. If I didn't get to know her non-negotiables, and then we just go off of a physical attraction, it can become very, very detrimental down the line. Because if I have a non-negotiable, she has a non-negotiable, and we, run into that, next thing you know, it causes a very, very traumatic experience.
Right.
Not only did we waste each other's time, but we also did further damage to what that individual was trying to come through. So when you're out there and you're looking to move forward with your significant other, this, that, take the time to do that work up front. And ask the tough questions. Because everything that's presented is not always facts. I'll let that rest.
I remember, I'm gonna make this last point. I remember when I first got hired by Faith World, and Pastor Clint Brown walks in and sat at the keyboard, started playing keyboard. And then he asked me, "What do you think about this keyboard?" I said, "It's cool." He said, uh, "What you think it's doable?" I said, "No, I it's cool, but I would rather." How about 2 weeks later, he comes in the church with this big old box. I was like, "What? I've never." It was a keyboard, and I was like, "You gotta be kidding me. Am I in Disney World or something?" I could not believe it.
You were faithful.
Faith World. I could not believe it.
Oh, so you weren't a Disney
The
World, you were
giving
Faith World.
heart that this man was displaying the whole time I was there was incredible. Incredible. As a pastor,
Mm.
you don't see that.
Ask and it shall be given.
I didn't ask for it. That's the point. I didn't even ask for. I just told him. I said, "Well, maybe it's something that maybe I." And he was basically asking me at the time, but I was like, I'm glad you hired me."
That's my point. Ask and it shall be given. So he asked the question, and he's looking at you as the expert in that particular area as far as what the technology is, what the
Hmm.
particular keyboard, this and the other. So you master that area.
Right.
So he's asking, and he got the knowledge he was looking for.
Yeah.
And so then he acted on it and says, okay, well, here it is, and whatnot. Because at the same time, he wanted a certain quality.
Right. That's the point. That's the point. Equip your people. Know, but first, see them,
Right.
recognize,
But you
see them.
because because let's just be real, he didn't buy that for you.
But I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just saying
Yeah.
he didn't buy it for you.
Yeah. I know what you're saying.
You know, because yes, he wanted to give you the proper tools and whatnot to bring the best out of you as well. So there's that whole thing of the giving and receiving type of situation
Hmm.
and whatnot. I want this. I have this particular expert here. This is what I'm looking for. How do I get there? So I'm gonna ask, so it was an indirect ask,
Hmm.
but how do I get there? But at the same time, I'm making sure that this person also feels empowered and equipped
Hmm.
to deliver the level that I know that is there to deliver on this level of excellence.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah.
Because I have my vision as well of what I want to see in this ministry.
Right. And to piggyback off you saying he wasn't buying it for me, what a giver does is he looks for needs, period. And so just because he provided that need, that I can certainly say that this is the way I operate too. Now, um, when I walk out this door, that's an opportunity. So you look for opportunities to give. Even if you go into a grocery store, and this is what a giver does. You go into a grocery store and you see somebody struggling at the counter. My first inclination is, don't worry about it, I got it. Not to impress you, but that's just the need, the giver that's on the inside of me that wants to. It's just automatic. Like I see a need, and bam, I want to do that.
Yeah, and the fact that God gives you resources to do it, because one of the things is give and never lacks. And what I mean exactly, what you're saying as well is that He didn't give the physical keyboard to you, but He gave you something
Hmm.
that is far more valuable than that keyboard, no matter how expensive it was.
Right.
Far more valuable to the point that you still talk about it to this day.
Absolutely. It
So
still
it's a
resonates.
gift that keeps giving.
Yeah,
Right.
it still resonates. And I take that same example and I'm sharing that with whoever
Right.
because I believe wholeheartedly that is a God in you.
Yeah.
We don't do that within our own selves because if you look at our flesh, we don't want it. We don't know. You're gonna make this happen. I hired you, so what you gonna do?
You want me to go? That's just like you go on the road, the rider. I got to have this particular type of equipment, blah 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 blah. And and they sign off on it as part of the contract.
Hmm.
This is what I do, or I'm not going to perform.
Hmm. Yesterday I had to give you a testimony. My mom, I took her to the hospital, not to the hospital, took her to the doctors, and the doctors were saying, well, her blood pressure is high. So my recommendation is for you guys to go to the hospital. So I said, okay, so this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna pack up, we're gonna go to the hospital. But mom, I think that you are on a fast and you got sugar diabetes. And the reason why you're feeling faint and the reason why this is going on is because you haven't eaten. And you trying to heal yourself by being on the fast, right? No, that's right. So I'm on my way to the hospital,
Yeah.
right? She says, before I go, can we stop and get, oh, sure. Yes, let's go and get something to eat.
Right.
Because I know that's what your issue is, right? So we're on our way. So we stop at a place to get something to eat. She starts to eat. I'm still on my way to the hospital. I feel better now. Oh, you do. Right? I feel much better now. She said, do I need to go to the hospital? And I said, if you want to. If you feel that if you feeling better, because I already told you, I think that the issue is, and I'm not trying to self-medicate you. What I'm saying is you can't go on a fast thinking that your body is not going to feel the results of it.
Right.
You're diabetic. So if my point is this,
Got the sugar beets.
right? This is my point, and I'm not trying to glorify myself. I'm trying to bring glory to him because
Exactly.
when you put yourself in his hands, you start to act like him. So my mom would say, "I know you feel. I want to go to I want to go ahead and go to the hospital because I know you feel inconvenienced. I know you probably in the back of your mind just cursing me out and saying why I went to the doctor and now I'm going to the hospital. Now I don't want to go to the hospital. You got to take me all the way back home, right? That's what's going on in her head. She told me that. She said, Mom, let me tell you something. For 9 months you carried me, and for 20 years you provided for me. If I can't be inconvenienced by you, that's a level of understanding that I missed.
Right.
There's nothing that you can say or have me do that's going to put me in that type of mindset. I'm not going to be inconvenienced by you.
And everybody else will understand.
If you say you want to go to the Miami, guess what? If I'm off, that's where we're going. That's how my heart is laid out for the gratefulness that I have
Yeah.
for the leaders that I have in my life and for people that I have in my life. That's just a given. I don't even think twice about it. I'm not inconvenienced. I don't even think twice about it.
Right.
If you say you feel better and you want to go home, let's go home. But she was so wanting to still go to the hospital because she thought I was upset because now I want to go back home. No, the giver in me, no. Mm-mm.
That's powerful, man. Because I feel the same way about my mother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll just leave it at that because I don't want to get emotional, right? I just leave it right there. I feel the same way about my mother.
Yeah.
And I'll go a little further. I feel like that about the people that I dearly, dearly love.
Right.
And that's the son.
We've been on long enough. And you close us out, Scott. I'm always closing, man.
Yeah, always closing.
I'm always with the taglines and stuff.
Well, we do appreciate you, viewing this podcast. Again, my name is Scott Hardy,
Ernest Collins.
and really, this just came from a thing of just really want to empower people with keys to life. So thank you for tuning in. And again, always you can send comments in, and we will do our best to to address those comments in the best way possible. And have a great rest of your day. Have a great rest of your week, and we will see you next week.
Peace.